All right, let's take a look at our web page that we have so far, and there's our pictures, and everything seems to be okay. Problem is, as we drag these in, it gets uglier and uglier until we get like that. And we probably don't want to have it look like this. And the problem with that, the reason why it's doing that is because it's a 400 this way, and it's a certain percentage that way. And what we'd like to do is now go ahead and do some media queries and say, well, when it's this small, we want it to do something else. So let's take a look at that. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and do our media queries. So we're going to say, well, what happens if we'll do at media screen and min width, and let's do 500 pixels. Just to, these aren't the official pixels, but at least we'll be able to see what's going on. All right, so when it's a minimum of 500 pixels, we want it to look a certain way. And then we'll say at another breakpoint, so on this one, we'll go ahead and copy this, paste it underneath, and say, okay, well, now if this is, say, 1024, then it's going to look like this. So when you're designing something, we should design something with the smallest first, because this is going to be the smallest. The only thing we're going to take a look at is the image size, because that is our problem. So if we take a look at the section, we have, where is it? So we have width of 30% and at float left, and it's 400 pixels. So these two things is what is really what we're going to be changing each time. So let's go ahead and copy these two and paste them into our screen sizes, so we can go ahead and change them and see how that impacts everything. All right, so I'd like to move this one out. This one is the end of this one here. Oh, no, end of this right here. So that start, stop, start, stop, stop, and then the same width goes for down here. This one here is the end of that. All right, so let's go ahead and make it pretty well small. And instead of what we're going to do is not have it float left. So let's go ahead and comment that out. We'll select this, hold on the Control key, and press the slash button. Okay, now it's no longer floating. And our width is 30%. We can go ahead and leave that. But let's make the height, say, 150 pixels. That's 1500 pixels. That would have been huge. All right, so, and then that's just that. And then there's another 400 pixels somewhere else. There it is. So this is 150. We want to change this to 150. But first we want to copy this, because that's something else we have to change. So what we'll do is we'll copy this and paste it down there. So I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to change this to, say, 150 pixels. All right, then I'm going to come down here, and I want that in both of these other, because that's another property I'm going to change. I'm going to change it there. And then we're going to change it here. Okay, so let's not break too much the first time through. So we went ahead and I changed certain settings. We said the section now is only going to be 150 pixels high, and 150% there, and I think that's all we're going to do. Right, and then we'll do File and Save. And then we'll come back here. Okay, it's got the small, this is the small size. Whoops. This is the small size. So let's refresh it and see what happens. All right, so what happened is they stacked 150 each. All right, so this is our breakpoint. Obviously, we want this brown to be a little bit farther. And this is a little bit too small. So let's go ahead and change all that. So we'll come up here to our section out of our media query. And our height is 150. Our width is 30%. And instead of being 30%, let's make it, let's see, 125 pixels. And what we're going to want to make it is 375 for the section, for the height. 375. And the image is going to be 150. So let's try that and see how that works. File and save. And then we'll go back and we'll refresh. All right, well, that didn't change. We got this back. These pictures, let's inspect the element here. Because they're all too narrow. All right, so here's the section. Here are these. All right, so the width is 125. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we make them a little bit bigger. Come on. All right, so they're getting a little out of whack here. All right, so if this, let's go ahead and make these, let's go ahead and make this 300 pixels instead. All right, so that's good there. And now all we have to do is make the all right, so that takes care of that. But this section now is 375. Okay, the LI is 300. And the image. All right, so let's make this a little bit bigger too. All right, that's not too bad. Let's make it 200 even. All right, so 200 for that and 300 for the width. All right, so let's go and make that so. Let's see, so gotta be careful not to go down into the media settings. We're gonna go into our settings up here. And now I can't remember. But so 200, I think it was, for that. And the height. And the height here. Let's see what that does. Let's see the image height. So make that 300 pixels. All right, let's go back and see if that has fixed anything. And we'll close this and refresh. All right, well, this is still not wide enough. I'd like to have this a little bit wider, and you can see it needs to be wider. So let's inspect the element. Be good if you took notes. So it's the LI 200 pixels. So we want to make that a little bit bigger. Let's bring it 300 pixels for the LI. File save. Okay, and we'll refresh. All right, that's a little bit better. All right, not great, but good enough for our thing. The only thing we have to do is make this brown thing a little bit larger. So that is the section tag. So we're going to make that. Let's make that, I don't know, 700 pixels. File save, and then refresh. Okay, so remember, a person who's going to be using this is going to be using a phone and is going to be scrolling down. So we want to have these looking this way. So this got to be a little bit bigger. So maybe we'll make that 1,000. Let's go ahead and make that 1,000. So it's going to be long and narrow. There we go. All right, so that's the way that looks. And let's refresh. Gosh, we're already past the thing. All right, so that's how it's looking now. And now what we want to do next is what happens when it gets bigger. So right now, when we get this thing bigger, it's still not looking right. So we'll do that in the next